Second oral question, Earl Attlee.
My Lords, I beg leave to ask the question standing on my name on the order paper.
My Lords, a newly recruited prison officer may draw their full occupational pension on reaching their state pension age, which is between 65 and 68, depending on their date of birth, and must have had at least 2 years' membership within the scheme to be entitled to receive a pension.
My Lords, I'm 65. In my time, I've undertaken military operations overseas, international aid operations overseas, but I'm no longer fit or strong enough to do so. Nor can I undertake the duties of a prison officer, including exercise control and restraint over prisoners. Does the Minister think it's morally right to ask a prison officer to serve until he's 68 years of age?
My Lords, while the Government acknowledges the challenging environment in which prison officers work, we consider that by comparison with emergency services such as the police or the fire brigade, whilst the environment is a challenging one, it is to an extent controlled, which those other occupations are not. So in that context, we consider that 68 is indeed an appropriate age at which to retire.
The Minister referred to challenging conditions in prison.
Keep going.
Would he accept that it is a violent environment, and are prison officers who are sick or injured by assault, or very importantly, fail the fitness test, are they entitled to their full retirement pension between the ages of 60 or 68, or is it diminished because they haven't reached the retirement age?
My Lords, the noble Lord and I share a background in the criminal justice system, and I'm aware, as he is, of the potential for violence to be inflicted on prison officers pursuing their duties. My Lords, when a prison officer is no longer fit to undertake operational duties, and the operational health practitioner confirms that ill health retirement is appropriate, the officer would be retired due to ill health and may receive in full the pension benefits due to them, calculated up to the last day of service. My Lords, may I acknowledge with gratitude that the noble Lord alerted me to his question in advance, and so I was able to seek further background from officials. If there is other material upon which the noble Lord would like me to expand, I can of course speak to him in person, or I can write.
Lords, prison officers get both unfair, bad press, and they're undoubtedly, certainly in my view, badly treated by this government. Poor pay to a pension age, has just been said, of 68, all while working in often ultra-violent workplaces. And additionally, governments cynically exploit these emergency frontline workers by depriving them of the most fundamental employment right of all, the right to strike. Second-rate treatment on pay, pensions and the right to strike, it's immoral. It just cannot possibly be justified. Can the noble Lord the Minister explain why prison officers in Scotland, who do have the right to strike, are legally allowed to withdraw their labour, whilst those south of the border are not?
My Lords, in relation to the final matter which the noble Lord raises, in spite of my Scottish background, I'm not at this stage, I regret to say, able to answer his question directly. But with his leave, I will look into the divergence between Scotland and England and Wales and revert to him in writing.
Would the Minister agree with me that one of the reasons that prisons have become so dangerous over the years is because we warehouse people, we don't rehabilitate them, people go in bad and they often come out worse. So actually, if you want to quieten the damage and the violence, then we need to return to rehabilitation. And I speak with someone who was blessed by rehabilitation, and it was an essential part of the prison service, which it is not now.
My Lords, I beg to differ. The importance of rehabilitation is known. Indeed, as we're on the topic of retirement of prison officers, one of the things which prison officers under legacy schemes are able to do is to retire from the prison office, from the prison service, take their pensions and go back in as occupational support grades. Now, in that capacity, they can do a number of functions, including working in approved premises, which is the new name for bail hostels. Their invaluable experience can assist people released into the community under conditions to meet those conditions and to attune themselves to a less regulated environment out with the prison estate. Their service in that regard is valued immensely by the government and by prison governors.
My Lords, I would like to note that I was a member of Board of Visitors in HM Prison, Pentonville. Why has the government not placed UK's prison officers in line with frontline emergency workers in the police and fire brigade, who can retire at the age of 60 years and claim their full occupational pension instead of having to reach 68 years of age?
My Lords, I'm sure the House will agree with me and join with me in acknowledging the service of my noble friend as a prison visitor. My Lords, whilst it is the case that police and fire service schemes have a lower retirement age of 60, employees in those professions contribute significantly more of their salary to their pensions, 12% in relation to police officers, 14% in relation to firefighters, whereas prison officers pay only 5.4% of their income into their pension schemes. That is significant, my Lords, because it is that level of contribution which allows actuarial assessment of the impact of retirement of officers.
My Lords, the safety and security of both prison officers and prisoners is clearly absolutely essential if prisons are to be effective, and indeed, as the noble Lord Bird pointed out, be effective in terms of rehabilitation. We are losing experienced prison officers. And yet, I think the government's response that prison officers work later than many other services until they're 68 isn't the way to address this. Now, I don't think he answered the noble Lord Attlee's question. The question was very specific, was at what age a newly recruited prison officer must stay in post before they're able to claim their full occupational pension. So in effect, how many years must a prison officer be in post to receive their full pension? It's quite clear for the fire service, it's quite clear for the police, but we haven't had that information for the prison service. Can he provide it?
My Lords, it's 2 years. A prison officer can retire at the age between 65 and 68. That is now in line, according to the Alpha scheme under which prison pensions are paid. A person on the scheme must have had at least 2 years membership within the scheme in order to be able to receive a pension.
My Lords, when answering a previous question, my noble friend said that somebody retired early on grounds of ill health may receive the full pension. There is a degree of difference between may and must. So what would be the conditions?
My Lords, it's dependent upon the assessment carried out by occupational health as to the person's capacity.
Excuse with the noble Lord the Minister, but I asked him specifically about a full pension. He's only answered for a pension. There is a difference receiving a pension, which would be a reduced pension, and a full pension. Can he tell me if he has the answer for how long for a full pension? If he doesn't, will he write to me and place a copy in the library?
I'm grateful to the noble lady for her clarification of the point, which perhaps was obvious to your lordships at the outset. As I understand it, it will be a matter of occupational health assessment. What I'll do is clarify that position and write to the noble lady as she requests.
Tom.
Go ahead.
Go on. This change, this diminution of the pension rights of prison officers was one of the impacts of the Hutton Review, which affected all public service employees in different ways. Recently, and significant cutbacks. Recently, the Pensions Minister suggested that the government were seeking to come back to make public service pensions even worse. Now, this may have been freelancing on the part of the Pensions Minister, and maybe this is outside the Noble Lord's brief, but was this a serious proposition? If when will the government make it plain what their policy is in relation to public service pensions?
My Lords, the Noble Lord anticipated that this would lie out with my brief. I regret to say that I'm not in possession of the terms of the statement to which the Noble Lord referred by the Prisons Minister in the other place, who I think is by the Pensions Minister. I'm so sorry. Well, in that case, my information is even further away from what the Noble Lord asked. So I will, with his leave, have to revert to him on that point in writing.